Oh. We got a serious battle now.
Nice.
I'm hearing some clicking going on.
Yeah, just looking at the setup.
Oh, it's not naval. Okay, cool.
No, it's joint. My land army is pretty beaten up though. If you love Rome 2 and epic battles, where the hell have you been? And if you're not watching the head-to-head between me and Republic of Play, then my god, are you missing out. Today we're going to be diving into one of the battles taken from the live stream, and we're going to see how it played out in this battle replay for Divide et Impera on Rome 2. So yes, this head-to-head is heating up. Our armies are amassing, and we're getting ever closer to going to war with one another. In this battle, we'll set a little bit of the scene. As the saluted myself, I have pushed deep into Asia Minor. However, the Greeks are not allowing me to take the land easily. Pergamon and Rhodes are fighting tooth and nail for every city in Asia Minor, and it is causing me several bits of attrition. My armies are weakened, and this battle is crucial. And you can see some naval action going off as Darren tries to land some of the Pergamon troops to meet up with his reinforcements over on this other side. So this is one of the battles I've taken Epos, and Epos is an extremely important settlement in Asia Minor as it has an amazing wonder that basically allows you to go ahead and get 10% more tax rate. I think it's 10%. It's somewhere around there. It's an extremely valuable wonder, and I need to make sure I keep hold of this because it will help me to fund more armies to send in and deal with Pergamon and to deal with Rhodes, as they are an extremely hardy foe. I think Rhodes have like 2 settlements left at this point in the campaign, and they are, you know, still pumping out the armies. Pergamon, obviously an extremely strong faction, and in these head-to-heads, even though Darren is playing as the forces of Carthage, you know, it's Seleucus versus Carthage, he gets to command the AI forces whenever we fight one another, and generally when that happens we have rules, so we only fight relatively close battles either side, unless we have to kind of fight a boring battle. So because of that, you know, Darren always has a great chance to take victory from me, or at least destroy my army so that maybe the AI can come in and clean up. You know, whenever you're playing as an AI army, you don't technically have to win, if that makes sense, because, you know, you can do enough damage that it really does devastate their force. So as I said, you know, we've pushed deep into Asia Minor. This army has overextended, and things are looking a bit scary right now. So one of the really annoying things that happened in this battle, as you can see, I'm trying to chase off some of Darren's forces, is that because this is a huge battle, I have a navy here, I have a full stack army, and I have a garrison here. But you're only allowed to bring 40 units onto the battlefield. So right now, this entire garrison is currently taking up and preventing the rest of my army from reinforcing. So my actual army that was in the city, and I don't know why it didn't give me the army rather than the navy, but whatever, is currently waiting to come on because of how Rome 2 works. So right now, we realize this a bit like a couple minutes into the battle, and I'm like, oh crap, Darren could just take the city and fortify it, and I would have to siege him. Which obviously is not good, because this is a decent Pergamon army. They have some really good units, and they match my forces, you know, pretty decently. They've got some good infantry. We've got a lot of very heavy hoplites. Like, these are very strong Pergamon forces right here. I believe he even has some pikemen laid around. Maybe not pikemen, but still some very, very good hoplites from the roster of Pergamon. So, you know, he could quite easily tunnel himself inside the settlement, which would be pretty goddamn scary. And as you can see, I'm throwing this garrison out here. Basically, the goal is to try and get this garrison killed so my reinforcements can make their way onto the battlefield. However, as you can see, Darren's army is here. My reinforcements are going to come on here. And in Divide et Impera, if you don't know, units move pretty slowly, you know. Heavy infantry can't just sprint. So he's going to see this coming, or at least at this point I thought he was going to see this coming, and just kind of form up and kill my reinforcements before I could get inside the city. He also has a fairly large force of his navy, which is just over here as well. So there's a handful of archers, a handful of infantry, and he can obviously also support with more men over on this side. So right now my garrison is fighting for survival, is charging out, getting stuck in, and basically just getting slaughtered. And this is kind of not only a delay tactic, but as I said, it's also giving me the opportunity to bring on some reinforcements. One of the things I do have on my side is, one, Darren will be looking like he won't be expecting my reinforcements, because DEI as well also has a very, very awesome line of sight part of the battlefield. So he can't see, as you can see, like, look at all these eyes. He can't see like anything in this tall grass. He can't see anything in the city. So probably from his perspective, all my elite forces are kind of just inside the like he would have expected, like I would have expected my main army to already be in the city. So he probably just thinks this is like a diversion to try and slow him up or cause some disruption. And I don't think at this point, I think we spoke about this afterwards, he didn't quite realize that, you know, my reinforcements were slowly trickling on here, because he just couldn't see them, because well, actually, I take that back. He can't actually see this, so I guess he just wasn't looking over here at this point in the battle, and it leads to a really, really interesting thing to happen. That is for sure. You can see some of my brave hoplites or my brave town garrison, the citizen militia, out here, and actually, Darren's killing a handful of his men here. But yeah, like, as I said, like, this battle was pretty scary because this was an extremely strong army I had here. I think this was like a 6 or 7 star general, which is so important in these head-to-heads because literally it's only a matter of time now until me and Republic of Play fight each other. Carthage versus Seleucids, proper PvP. As we're getting ever closer. Darren has dealt with Italy now, and he's getting ready to, he is invading Greece. I'm wrapping up my conquest in Asia Minor. So, as I said, it's literally only a matter of time until our forces do find each other, probably in Greece. Greece is going to be the melting point. Obviously, Darren's fighting Rome in Greece, and for me, it's, you know, rightful Greek territory if we're trying to recreate Alexander's empire. Which makes for, you know, it's going to be interesting. So I definitely tune in. We do these head-to-heads every single Wednesday. I don't know what time it's going to be because we're going to go for a little bit longer. I think we're going to change the length of the live streams to around about 6 hours. So we could be starting a little bit earlier, but I'll let you guys know on the community tab. Make sure just to subscribe and also hit that bell notification if you're excited. And don't worry, if you've missed any of them, if you've missed the last 10, if you've missed all of them, you've only caught 1 or 2, don't feel like you're going to be lost. I can quickly summarize what's happened, and you can just jump in at any point in these head-to-heads because the most exciting thing hasn't happened yet. The most exciting thing is going to be when me and Darren actually PvP our proper factions, because there's going to be so much strategic outplaying on the map. We're going to be fighting in Asia Minor, Greece, the Mediterranean by sea, and down in Africa. We're going to be, you know, fighting over Sicily and Crete. It's going to be insane, and the build-up kind of really starts now. We're going to edge ever closer to war. So yeah, make sure you're tuned in, guys, because it is really, really exciting. So once again, I'm kind of getting lucky. I don't think at this point, actually, okay, I take it back. So he can't actually see, he can see this unit for some reason, but not these two. I don't really know why. But okay, I guess it's just coming into view now. So maybe back here was a little bit hidden. But at this point, I'm just trying to rush as many of my men inside the city. Darren's using his cavalry to harass me. I also engaged his forces a little bit out here, just again trying to slow him up. As long as I can kind of keep him on the back foot in these battles, maybe I can get some reinforcements inside the city. And if I do that, then I'll be in a much better situation. Obviously, as you can see, the balance of power is not looking great for me at the moment. But that's obviously because a lot of my men aren't on the battlefield quite yet. You know, I think a bit like this battle was very much 50-50. So you should see this balance of power. But as more of my garrison dies and more of my reinforcements turn up. And that's kind of why I'm being quite risque with a lot of these guys over here as well. It's like I'm just throwing my Marines into combat because I'd much rather have my, you know, 120 man units, my 160 man units than these Marines at this point. Oh my god, my voice a little bit croaky there, but it's the sense of battle. Also, this army isn't 100% strength. This army that I'm bringing on is actually half strength as well, which is pretty scary. These guys are 115 out of 256, so under half strength. My general is, you know, under half strength. So this army wasn't as strong as I was, you know, really hoping. Yeah, you can see actually it's actually pretty weak. All my good units, all my like bronze shield pikemen, and all my other men are very, very depleted. I think some of my smaller units are a little bit stronger. But yeah, this is pretty scary at this point because, you know, as you can see, Darren is very close into the city. I do have some units still inside the city, a lot of my Marines who can fight pretty handedly. But, you know, still, you know, it's not going to be, you know, as strong as my pikemen. If I had pikemen here, it'd be a lot harder for Darren to, you know, breach. The Hellenics are one of the hardest factions to I guess, push in a siege battle because they have heavy hoplites, they have good archers, they have pikes, and it becomes very difficult unless you have good armies to really outlodge them. Once you do have good armies, it's not that difficult to outlodge Hellenics from their settlements, but obviously Darren's having to play with whatever the AI gives him, and generally they don't have an army that is capable of, you know, taking out Hellenic battles, or Hellenic armies, you know. Obviously when me and Darren come to fight, he'll be using his own armies, and then that will allow him to kind of customize his forces, you know, maybe a couple more javelins, maybe a couple more archers, which will be much more effective than, say, just infantry or whatever. So at this point, I believe Darren is coming up to seeing my reinforcements. So at this point, he hasn't seen my army, and he actually still can't see it, which is crazy. The trees are obviously blocking line of sight, and he can't, he can barely even see because of the houses and stuff like that, which is amazing for me. So my army is getting a lot closer, and now my cavalry is going to come out of nowhere. And again, Darren couldn't see this coming because of line of sight. He wasn't, like, expecting this to come in. And I think he kind of sees him, like, literally right now. And my cavalry comes flying through the forestry and just jumps onto these Marines, which is so goddamn useful. It really is useful to take out these archers as I can, because archers are melt if they're unsupported, especially these lighter Rhodian mercenary boatmen. And my cavalry, you know, these are pretty good Tarantino cavalry, so they can just jump in, do some damage, and then get the hell out of there. But Darren has now seen this coming in, and he is going to be trying to block me off. Obviously, you know, the smarter move to do is just to maneuver his forces and wedge his army in between my army and his. And at this point, I'm like, okay, I can sit in the city with what I have and charge out. I can sit inside the city and just hope that my reinforcements can come out. Or I can kind of flip the table on him, because again, he would not be able to see half my army inside the settlement, so he probably won't be expecting me to sally out. He's going to wedge himself in between my army and the city. So why don't I flip that on him? Why don't I sandwich him and put my armies on either side of him? And try and bring him down. And Darren kind of realizes that that's a possibility that could happen. He obviously wants to try and take the city, but he's going to find himself in a pretty tricky situation as I'm running out the settlement. And even still, he still can't see half of this army, so maybe he hasn't noticed, because I think at this point he's still in marching formation. So I don't know if he actually realizes that I am coming at him. Do keep in mind as well, these battles do come out kind of very, very fast, so you don't really have a lot of time to react, and maybe he was expecting more time as my force finally comes into view. As he turns his army around, he can probably start to see these guys. My cavalry's going to maneuver in, and yeah, maybe he didn't see this army coming in, and he was just planning on attacking from this. I think that makes very good sense, and now all of a sudden my army comes out of nowhere, and he sees that my forces, my reinforcements are moving in. Definitely, I'll have to ask him if he saw my army coming in or not, because that's always very interesting. I think he did, because these guys were maneuvering over a little bit sooner, but yeah, he definitely did not have as much time as probably he would like, and I think by sallying out my Marines outside the city, it's going to put him in a very tricky situation. You know, right now, his forces are, you know, kind of wedged between these two houses, so he can utilize that. But I have a lot of archers, not mainly because of my reinforcements. I don't really have many archers here. Oh yeah, I actually remember we talked about this. Darren said he didn't realize that my army was coming until this artillery started firing. So I think as soon as you saw him go out of marching column, that's when he realized my reinforcements were coming in, and he was just like, oh crap. And as I said, units move slowly and stuff like that, so all of a sudden, he's like, oh man, I need to quickly reform up. And as you can see, balance power is still pretty even, but I definitely think I have the advantage at this point because of the element of surprise. My javelins are doing an amazing amount of damage to these heavy Pergamon hoplites, bringing them down man by man. But Darren is reacting quite nicely. He's bringing soldiers back, and he's also trying to push his way inside the city, because if he can clean up one of his flanks at this point, he can, either use the city to his advantage, which he's basically doing already, and push further in, or he can just kind of turn around and utilize all of his forces. Don't get it twisted. I definitely caught him off guard, but he still has a very, very strong force, and he is out, manning me in a lot of these positions, just because he has the quantity. I kind of have these smaller 115-man units. I've got these kind of smaller marine units, and also, as we saw, like, these guys are healthy, but my main like pikes and phalanxes and stuff are half strength. So it's not impossible for him to try and break this line. He's got a nice little outflank here with his hoplites, which are now going to be marching onto my phalanx, but from the side. And he's also pushing pretty heavily. Like, I'm not going to break some heavy Pergamon hoplites from the front with my marines, but this is just kind of a tactic to try and slow him up as much as possible. Got reinforcements coming around as well, and this is as well as that, my men are still turning up to the battlefield, and he's also got all of these marines over on this side that could quite easily come in and just hit me from him. At this point, I'm pretty scared of that happening, because I've kind of deployed everything in the city to fight him. At the moment, it's going pretty well. I've got archers kind of taking up some heavy Pergamon hoplites rather than them fighting over on this side. My pikes have managed to get a nice little outflank here on his hoplites, which are going to be going in. But yeah, I'm really scared at this point of all of these forces just smashing into my side. That's why you can see my archers and infantry just looking to try and blockade this as I'm bringing more men over. Trying to like kind of throw down the gauntlet at this point and be like, look, Darren, if you want to go down this alleyway, be my guest, but I'm going to come right around the side of you with these units. And again, these aren't the strongest kind of mercenary units, but they're men. At this point, I needed everything I could get. As well as that, I also have some Tarentine cavalry as well, which are going to be extremely useful. As you can see, Darren's doing a pretty good job of enveloping me and my lighter infantry here. These are just my Furios swordsmen, so they're diving in, but not going to be anything crazy. These are definitely nowhere near as good as I would want this unit to be. It's kind of like just a light infantry, but it just doesn't do what I need it to do, and that's why I'm definitely looking forward to when we unlock the 4 racks reforms, which honestly aren't that far away, and hopefully I can grab them 4 racks reforms before me and Darren go to war, because that's going to be a huge boost to my military power, and just basically allow me to diversify my armies a lot more from pikes and hoplites to that kind of more lighter infantry force that can really do some good damage. So as you can see, the battlefield is definitely drawn at this point. Darren is kind of doing a pretty gnarly amount of damage, and he's also bringing some infantry around here along with some cavalry as well, trying to scare off my men. Luckily for me, though, these guys are actually peltists, so he's going to be charging these guys, but the Greek peltists are fairly good in combat anyway. Like, this is going to hurt. Like, don't get me wrong, this is going to hurt. But I get a javelin throw off, and then the peltists, even after getting smashed in from the front, they can hold their own in these combats, They are pretty decent. And I'm bringing my own cavalry around. I've got all my archers over here as well, just firing away, picking off plenty of this axe infantry as they go flying into my peltists. And I think Darren at this point really, really wants to try and kill my artillery pieces, which again, completely understandable. This artillery piece is just pounding away at his static formation. I don't think they've really got too many kills. I mean, actually, 200 kills is amazing when a battle is kind of relatively this close. This unit is definitely paid for itself. But luckily, I'm about to rear charge this cavalry with my own unit, and these guys are going to be devastating on that charge. They're going to come in and absolutely demolish this unit of Hypasus. And as cavalry tries to pull out, if you continue to pursue it and your cavalry is fast enough, you can just devastate them. So right now, I've kind of dealt with all of this with my archers and other cavalry coming in. I've kind of dealt with that. However, Darren is breaking through on this side. I don't really have the marines to hold back his forward pushing. I think this was his plan, right, was to fight his way forward inside the city, as he just has so many more superior men. Like, I'm making progress here and on the front side, but it's whether or not I can break through. Darren has a lot of good men here, and I'm just throwing everything I have to slow him up, to bide myself time to bring over more infantry, because there's areas I'm winning, and then there's areas I'm not winning. And Darren's going to just continue to try and push himself inside the settlement. He's got his archers here just shooting away and just causing me a lot of issues. But again, I'm happy to kind of throw them guys away. And I really need to just get this cavalry back inside the settlement. And Darren is going to pull back from here as all my archers just open up. And I believe these are Cretan archers, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, these are Cretan archers. At least one unit of Cretan archers. Yeah, I got a unit of Cretan archers there. Got some Egyptian archers. And just scattered around. So I've got a mix, but even these other archers, enough fire can do pretty good. And at this point, I see Darren is trying to fall back. So I'm going to throw cavalry immediately into his ranks when he's disrupted. And basically just try my best to slow up his retreat. There's a tactic I use quite often in these battles. Whenever I see Darren trying to be, trying to maneuver his forces in a certain way, I just try and disrupt that because I know firsthand how annoying that can be. And sometimes it completely changes your battle plan. Like all of a sudden, some cavalry charges stop your men from forming up and the enemy infantry is just too close. And you're like, well, I guess this is where I'm fighting. And as you can see, I have managed to break this front line and push Darren inside of the settlement. However, his heavy hoplites are really pushing in deep, and I'm having to throw in some of my really strong men as well. I love the look of these hoplites as well. It looks so awesome. Love the Pergamon helmets. So at this point, you can see like his men are breaking through, but now with my reinforcements turning up, there is definitely things are looking very, very good for me. I'm finally coming around here, just scaring off his missiles, and Darren is trying his best, but I'm finding my way through a lot of these gaps in the battle line. My general is pretty low over here, but he's going to fall back and, make sure he doesn't die. And Darren's going to get a really nice side charge here with his spearmen into the back, and now the battle is just an all-out brawl in the streets. There is no real battle lines. It's just an all-out fight as more of my pikemen turn up. But at this point, I'm pretty happy that the battle is going to be won. And it was a very scary battle because, if Darren would have realized my reinforcements were coming on sooner, that battle could have completely turned on its head. It really, really could have, because I think we really caught him off guard getting as close as we did. Not having, because he sent. And again, that's something which you got to think of. There's these small decisions in the battles, and I'd get a beautiful cavalry charge here, that completely turn the tide. If Darren would have left his cavalry on this side, cavalry have a much larger spotting distance than infantry, so he probably would have seen my reinforcements coming a lot sooner. But he sent his cavalry over onto this side and one inside the city, so he had nothing kind of scouting out this side, and obviously rightfully so. I would expect I was very surprised that my reinforcements didn't start on the battlefield, and I think so was he. It's like the first time I've really seen that happen. But if he would have left cavalry on that side, he would have scouted it out, and he probably could have formed a much better, defense than what he could do when I was so close to him. But right now it is just kind of maneuvering in. He did finally manage to break through this side a couple minutes too late, but he did manage to do so, and he can reinforce now. And at this point in the battle, I'm just trying to make sure that my generals are still alive. I'm trying to minimize casualties, because Pergamon still have 2 full stack armies, military around Pergamon itself, military around Ethos and, not Ethos, sorry, the province up in the north, where Constantinople basically is, Nicomedia. So they still have plenty of armies scattering around the provinces, so I'm definitely not out of the woods, and I'm just happy that this army survived because, it had a very good general, had my navy here, which would have sucked to lose, and because it was a siege battle, and my armies were inside the settlement, if I would have lost this battle, both this army and the navy would have been completely wiped. So I'm very happy we won. It was an extremely close battle. In the end of it, I really don't have that much left. Even though it looks like I have a decent amount of flags, it's just a lot of these units are very depleted or just not so good infantry. And yeah, as I said, that element of surprise coming on the battlefield was just absolutely clutch. And I think, honestly, Darren would have done a lot better attacking the settlement if my army was inside, because he had a lot of archers. He could have formed up his entire army and, just kind of slowly, methodically took away my force bit by bit. But victory is going to be mine, and yeah, it couldn't come any sooner. And there we go. Darren's army is going to just mass her out at this point, and victory is going to be mine, and it is definitely very needed. That is for sure. So you can see my Navy actually did a pretty decent job of holding off the forces. You know, some decent kills, 178 kills in this unit of Marines. Some of these Marines getting slaughtered, but still much needed. Unfortunately, we can't see the other armies, but you can see Darren's Navy doing okay. This, again, was kind of a smaller Navy. His forces mainly came in his army rather than his Navy, as I believe my Navy was much larger than his was. But yeah, I managed to kill 4,000 men. I did still lose 2,000 men, which is a little bit scary because of all the forces, but it was a much needed victory. And thank God we managed to win there. So that battle really consolidated my hold in Pergamon, but in Asia Minor. We're at least in Epos. We still have plenty of battles leading on to the destruction of Pergamon, because I think at this point, Rhodes still have 4 full stacks. I think Pergamon have like 2.5 full stacks that I slowly grind away at over the next couple streams and brought them down. And at this point, things are looking very interesting. As I said, the stage is definitely set for a war to erupt, so make sure you tune in to these head-to-heads every single Wednesday. Again, not 100% sure on the time, but just make sure you're subscribed, hit that bell notification, turn notifications on. Consider supporting me on Patreon or becoming a YouTube member, as it really greatly supports the channel. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and fish out.